Hi guys, welcome back to Cooking Therapy with Ari and my vlogs. I haven't done one of these in a while and hopefully I can not have so many gaps in between each video, but I'm excited / nervous to do this video. I don't think I've been like this deep yet, especially on my vlogs. I've talked about broad topics, but definitely not anything that shares too much. So I'm gonna try to find the balance today in sharing my experiences and my personal journey. But I am at my friend's house. It's absolutely gorgeous out today, and she was so kind enough to let me film in her backyard. So this is her backyard and her like outside barbecue thing. I originally really wanted to do this YouTube channel. What I wanted to really merge together was, yes, my passion with baking and doing the baking tutorials, but also really shedding light on some deeper, darker topics and ones that surround eating. And I know that I've talked about my personal issues with emotional eating, and to go along with that, I thought it was really important to also share about issues that I've gone through that does go hand in hand with the emotional eating, because with emotional eating comes reasons why you actually emotionally eat and what are the difficult emotions that that you're not necessarily dealing with that you cope with by eating and stuffing your face. So that's what today's gonna be about, a deeper sort of topic that I know a lot of you can definitely relate to, not just women, but also men. I think it's important to talk about it, to shed light on those things, because through my own reflection on my emotional eating and processing and really working through that, I really learned that it doesn't get better until you actually get to the root of the issue and confront those issues and really work through those emotional problems. And so that's what I'm doing today. So my title today is about abusive relationships, and I'm specifically going to be talking about emotional abuse, but obviously there are many different forms, and some forms even lead into other forms, but every single form should definitely be taken seriously. So my personal, experience with it and what I've learned throughout going through something like that. So I ended my last long-term relationship over a year ago, and it was really hard. This was someone that I saw my future with, and we were together for 2.5, almost 3 years. So it's a long time, and you share a lot of things together, and you do a lot of things together, and you share your life. And so after that, I went through a period of grief and guilt and just so many different emotions. And I won't sit here and say that, I took time for myself and I let myself heal properly, and no. And, it's important to mention that, because I think so many of us have gone through that situation before. That, in our heads, right, it's just easier to fill the void in some way. Whether that's, occupying your time by doing a million different activities, working endless hours. You just don't want to feel so shitty. You don't want to feel the loneliness. You don't want to feel the sadness. You don't want to feel depressed. And so not too long after my breakup, I met this guy. And I was very upfront and said to him that, I just got out of a long-term relationship, and, I'm not in the best mental state right now, and I'm definitely not looking for anything serious. I was very clear and direct right from the beginning that, it's great that you're interested, but, I just got out of something serious, and I just want to have this be light and fun. And so he was okay with that. He said, okay, I respect that, and, we can definitely take things slow. I don't like, to move fast anyways. And so, of course, that sounded very good to me, right? And so we start to hang out and get to know each other, and he was very charismatic, very personable, very outgoing, very charming. And I don't mean to knock all the guys who are all of those things and do not emotionally abuse people, but I don't know, I just have come to find throughout these relationships with some of these guys, and I'm sure that equally with women as well, that this charming quality is a theme. And, I'm definitely a hopeless romantic. Anyone who knows me, I love a good guy who can sweep me off my feet and show me the town and opens my car door. I live and breathe for those things. So, obviously, the fact that this guy was very much like that, I loved it, and I ate it up. As time progressed, you start to get to know this person, right? And so usually these signs that someone is emotionally abusive or just doesn't know how to treat someone is not always in the beginning, right? Because they're charming, they're amazing, they're giving you like the best resume, the best human resume for a boyfriend, right? So you are just kind of blind to those things, or you just choose to ignore certain signs. So even little things that I would notice in the beginning, I was like, okay, but he's amazing, so I'm just gonna ignore that. So I started to notice things were not as it seemed when we started to actually deal with conflict. And usually this happens, right? Even though conflict is a very difficult thing and nobody wants conflict and blah, 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 conflict is necessary, because that's when you really get to know how a person deals with stress and, stuff that comes in life. And you have to see how someone reacts to those stress-induced situations. So conflict started to come up because, again, I had told him I don't want anything serious, but as time kind of progressed, aka 3 weeks, he was already, I want to spend more time with you. I don't feel like you're, putting in the effort to spend time with me. And little by little, I saw these behaviors of just possessiveness and control. So that's very important, and definitely a red flag, where he would start arguments with, like I would ask him to hang out, right? Like, what are you doing on Saturday? I was like, I'm busy on Sunday and I have plans on Friday, but what are you doing Saturday, if you're free? I don't really appreciate the fact that you're just, putting me into your schedule last minute. I don't do that with you. You should really be making plans with me before you make plans with your friends. And I just, I was like, wait, what? Even now, thinking about it, it just sounds ridiculous, right? And I was already coming off the heels of, for myself, putting my own needs to the side in a relationship, and with that came my friendships. And I knew this time going around that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a life outside of that relationship. And I personally think that's very healthy. I think that's normal. I think that's needed, especially when you're dating. Things obviously change once you're married, but so he started to really ask these things from me, and already I was kind of like, that doesn't sit well with me, and we would get into arguments about it. So that was one. Another thing that stood out for me was just his contradictions. If someone is telling you they care about you, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, and yet they are being possessive, or they're being controlling, or they're treating you not with love, not with care at all, then you have to not ignore that. I mean, that's a huge red flag, because anybody could tell you that they love you. Anybody could tell you you're the most amazing thing. Anyone can tell you that they're going to be committed to you, but it's really the action. So really pay attention to those actions, right? That famous phrase, actions speak louder than words. It's really true. So he was a walking contradiction with that. So things started again here and there. They would escalate, even when I had any sort of upset or anything bothered me, he would completely switch, like as if I killed his dog. Like, just so upset, so defensive, and it was difficult for me because he also started to manipulate the situation and make me feel like, how dare I even have any sort of emotion besides feeling happy at all, right? And I started to believe these messages. I started to believe that, maybe I'm just trying to cause a problem just to cause a problem. Like, maybe I'm just miserable, and, why am I even ruining a good happy moment with talking about how I feel upset about anything? And so that's kind of where things sort of shifted, and I really started to get sucked into it. And so things got really out of control when, and I think even subconsciously for myself, I knew that it wasn't a good situation. And I knew that because I had gotten asked out by another guy. And mind you, me and this guy were not exclusive at all. This was all within maybe 3 months. And so I got asked out by another guy, and I didn't feel comfortable being truthful with this guy and telling him that I was dating other people, because I was really afraid of what his reaction was going to be. So another red flag. If you are in a situation and in a relationship, even if it's not exclusive and you're just dating someone and you feel uncomfortable being truthful and honest with them, or you're scared about what their reaction is going to be because all of their reactions prior to that have always been met with anger and aggression, that's a huge red flag. And so, and again, in the moment, I'm not very conscious of these things per se. I have, a feeling, but not enough for me to kind of say, this is done, I can't do this. And I'll talk a little bit later about, for me, why that is. And so I tell him that I'm going out with some friends, and I go out and I'm having a great time, but of course I'm not on my phone. And so when I'm on my way back home, I look at my phone and there's like 4 missed calls, a couple text messages. Where are you? How come you're not answering your phone? Which was so crazy to me because I had already told them I was going to be out with my friends. So again, that was also a big red flag. Just that sort of possessiveness, him needing to know what I was doing at any given moment. And again, we were not together exclusively. And even if you are in an exclusive relationship, that's still not a healthy sign. So I get home, I call him, and I said, I just got home. He's like, I've been trying to call you, where have you been? I said, I told you I was out with my friends. Completely spazzed out. He's like, I was on my way to your apartment. I thought you got into a car accident. And I'm like, wait a minute. You don't hear from me for 2 hours. I was out for 2 hours, and you assumed that I was in a car accident and you're on your way over here? I know. Crazy. I should have ended it right then and there, but I didn't. And he twisted it around on me because, of course, I thought that was psycho, but for him it was, how dare you even question my intentions? Because of course I was like, what were you trying to do? Like, check up on me? Like, why would you feel the need to come over to my apartment? That's so weird. And he flipped it around, very manipulative. Oh, the fact that you're even trying to make it sound like I had any other intention besides good is ridiculous. I was worried about you. Don't you want someone that actually cares about you? So, of course, I didn't end it even then. And so we get into an argument, not even that day, it was the next day when I had told him, like, I don't appreciate you doing that. I think you're crossing a boundary, and I don't feel comfortable with you just dropping by my apartment whenever you feel like it, because that wasn't the only time. So we get into this big argument, long story short, and threats are a big red flag too. And they don't have to be threats like I'm gonna hurt you physically, just simple threats like literally we're on the phone and he's berating me on the phone and just being really emotionally abusive, calling me names. And I said, you know what, I don't need to put up with this. You are treating me completely poorly right now, and I'm gonna hang up the phone. If you hang up the phone right now, I'm done with you. Mind you, that wasn't the first time that he's mentioned that he's just gonna be done with me. Also a manipulation. So, and I'm pointing these things out because, if have ever dealt with something like this or currently dealing with it, it's really important to kind of reflect back on it. And I'm so sorry, I swear, I think that's a wasp. Oh shit. Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm freaking out. Okay. Alright, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, it's freaking out. So it's important to go back and look at the relationship patterns, because then for the next person that comes along, you want to be more aware of those warning signs so that you don't get into another situation like that. So that was another warning sign that I had observed. And so he says this on the phone, I'm not, if you hang up, I'm completely done with you. And I fell for it. I didn't hang up the phone. My way of dealing with it was I set the phone off to the side while he's still yelling, while he's still going off. So I wasn't technically off the phone, but I also wasn't listening to all this crap that you were saying to me. So I finally picked up the phone and I said, you know what, I can't. Like, he was just still going, and I hung up the phone. And then I blocked him. I mean, at that point, I was like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? I don't deserve to be treated like this. And so, I'm not kidding you, maybe 10 minutes later, I'm walking to my room to go to sleep, because it was like 10 o'clock. And if you know me, I'm a grandma. I go to sleep by 9. I get a knock on my door. Should I even say it's not even a knock? It was like a full-blown, like, punching my door. And I'm like, obviously freaked out. And I knew it was him. Clearly, because he also was yelling my name through my door. The fact that he was already there was so crazy to me. Obviously, he was already on his way. And so, at this point, his number's blocked. So, I'm getting a bunch of blocked calls. And by the next morning, I looked at my phone. It was actually 22. So, crazy. I didn't leave my apartment. He was screaming my name outside, telling me to let him in, to the point where my neighbor actually did hear this guy, and I had to call my neighbor to have him help me to escort this guy. I should have called the cops, and I encourage you, if you're ever in a situation like that, to call the cops. It was a scary situation, and I wish that I could have done that, because had something else happen, I mean, I didn't know what he was capable of, and even just to go that extent, was crazy. So you would have thought after that things would have been completely done. Well, they weren't. I had gone on my retreat, and if you actually have seen my videos from the retreat that I did at Kripalu, I vaguely mentioned this guy in my vlogs, and so this is a more descriptive story on what actually happened. So I go to Kripalu, I have an amazing retreat, I feel really empowered. I had actually a very long talk with my roommate at the time, and she really kind of helped me see that this is a crazy situation. This is not someone that I should surround myself with. And so instead of just cutting it off, I of course decide that it's healthier to have a sit-down meeting with him and tell him in person that this is not a good situation for me, and completely cut things off. And so yet again, we sit down, we have a meeting, or we have a talk, and he reels me back in, right? He's in some way also, again, very charming, and telling me all of these things that he's done for me and how much he cares about me and all of this stuff, and I am reeled back in. And so we maybe were in communication after that for like 2 more weeks. I started to finally tell people about it, and that if I can give any of you guys advice or support, talk to your friends, talk to your family, don't keep it hidden. I kept it hidden. I didn't tell anybody about that incident, about him coming over to my place and completely harassing me. I didn't tell anyone, not until maybe a week after. And I think the reason why was because I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, and I didn't want people to judge him. And I know that sounds crazy, but I know, again, some of you guys can relate to that situation and those feelings. When you're manipulated and when you are in the midst of emotional abuse, you almost just, that part of your brain that tells you, like, get out, like, this is crazy, it's like completely turned off. And I think that that's why I'm saying it's so important to confide in the people who care about you, confide in the people who know you, because they're on the outside. They see the situation from an outsider's perspective. They're not in it, and they can help you and guide you and really tell you and be that compass of pointing you in the direction of, this is not healthy and this is not safe. And that's basically what had happened. I went actually to my my trainer, my physical trainer, and I decided to just tell her what happened, and she was so taken aback. And she's like, this is just not good. This is not good. This is not healthy. And you can't see this guy anymore. And I then, decided to share with other people who I really cared about and who cared about me as well. And they had the same feedback. And I finally, when you bring something to light, you have to face it. And for me, my family and my friends mean so much to me, and I can't imagine being with someone who my friends and family see in a negative light or see them mistreating me. I can't, because I want my partner to be around my friends, be around my family, and once that sort of reputation is tainted, it's really difficult for me anyways to really go back. So I knew once I really told people what was going on, I was going to have to make a decision. And I feel subconsciously I wanted to make a decision, and I wanted to make a decision to end it. So I got the support from those people, and we never spoke again. It was so crazy. I mean, he never spoke to me again. Like, it was just like a random day that we were supposed to hang out, and I, for the first time ever, canceled the plans. And I said, I'm not going to be able to make it. Sorry. And we never spoke again. And all I can say is thank you, Jesus, because that was a blessing in disguise. And of course, even after that, I wanted closure, and I felt like, things ended so abruptly that I couldn't move forward. Women, men, that's a lie. We don't need closure, okay? Closure, whether you get closure or not, if it's an unsafe situation and if it's an unhealthy situation, it's usually best to just cut it off. And I remember talking to someone at the time of just like, I just can't even believe that he never even reached out back to me, and I need closure. And he said to me, you have your closure. The closure is he has not reached out. And so many times I think that we want to have those types of conversations. We want to have a sit down. We want to have them tell us, I don't want to be with you. Or the other person say, well, I don't want to be with you. To have sort of like a clear-cut ending. And they say it even without saying it, right? Actions speak louder than words. And if I looked at his actions, that was not a healthy situation, and it was best that I didn't need closure. I needed to just move forward, and thank God that it didn't get worse. And I share that story with you because it has been a while, and I just learned a lot. I learned a lot about my worth, and I learned how important it is to assert yourself. And that's difficult for me because I think that I do care about people, and especially those who have struggles, who have issues, and that's why I'm in the field that I'm in. And so when it comes to dating, it's pretty much the same thing, And so I have a hard time asserting myself because of the consequences, right? I feel like, okay, if I assert myself, that person's not going to want to be around me, or that person's not going to like me anymore, and then that's another loss, and then I'm going to be preoccupied that this person doesn't like me, and what does that mean about myself? And I put so much importance on what these people think of me, what these guys, think of me, and I realized that my worth was dependent on how they viewed me, and doesn't really work. It doesn't work, because if that person treats me badly, then I'm gonna feel like I deserved it, or I'm not a good person because this person treated me this way and it's my fault. And so if that's you, know that your worth has to come from somewhere else. For me, my worth has come from my relationship with God, and that separately from any of these relationships, even family, even friends, I have worth because I was created by Him, and that's something so unique and so special. And He loves me unconditionally, and that's kind of where my worth comes from. If anything, your worth should come from within and from yourself, in that you're not depending on other people to show you your worth, because people are flawed and people have issues, and sometimes they don't even realize it. So I wanted to share that with you because it's something that still impacts me to today. I mean, it's something that, if someone says, what was, a difficult relationship or situation you've been in relationship-wise, that's something that comes to mind. So again, it's important to be aware of definitely those warning signs, those red flags that I mentioned before, and remember your worth, that you are valuable, that you deserve to have a healthy relationship where you're not being taken advantage of, where you're not being emotionally abused in any way, and that you're not alone. It doesn't matter, you know, what your circumstances are necessarily. It doesn't matter whether you're the most successful person in the world. This can happen to anybody, and a lot of people have gone through emotional abuse, even physical abuse, and you know, you're not alone. There is support out there, there's resources out there. So I hope you definitely took something from part 1 of this vlog series, and that by sharing this story that it motivates you in any way possible to take a deeper look within that relationship, take a deeper look at yourself, and that you don't have to put up with it, and you shouldn't have to put up with it. I'm going to do another video talking about another situation that I went through, and also just wrap it up with everything, you know, that I've learned throughout both of these situations. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys very soon.